Hawk versus owl. Who would win a fight? They say the Earth is about 70% water, meaning the other 30% is land. But no matter where you are, above you is the sky. The ever-expansive sky is filled with winged birds, and some of them are large, ferocious, and they reign supreme. Hawks are agile hunters. Owls dominate the nights. Two vastly different birds, both symbols of strength. But what would happen if a hawk and an owl battled one another to claim their stake on the skies? Who would win? Before we ascend to the skies, don't forget to like and subscribe. Did it? Tray tables and seat backs in the upright position? Let's begin. What do they look like? During the day, if you look up and see a bird soaring by and it looks to be on the hunt, you might wonder, was that a hawk? It might have been. You have to remember, there are dozens of types of hawks, all varying slightly. But in general, hawks are medium-sized birds of prey, usually smaller than eagles and larger than falcons. They're usually quite stocky in their build, with broad, rounded wings. They have powerful talons and strong, hooked beaks. Typically, you'll notice a white belly and any variation of colors on the back like brown, gray, or maybe even rust-colored, like the red-tailed hawk. It could be like the large ferocious hawk with brown feathers on his back, a grey head, and uniquely feathers all the way down to his toes. This hawk can be 2.5 feet long with a 5-foot wingspan. And one key thing you'll notice about hawks, those huge eyes. Big eyes that take up a significant portion of their head, offering them excellent eyesight. In some subspecies of hawks, the eyes start out yellow and become more brown with age, but the eyesight always stays superb. Now, if you want to talk about big eyeballs on a bird with excellent sight, then we should look to the owl. One of the most recognizable birds, owls have eyes specifically developed for great eyesight at night. However, there are some owls, like snowy owls, who have yellow eyes, which is a sign of them being diurnal or active during the daytime. But most owls we know have orange, brown, or even black irises, signs that they are nocturnal. Just like there are many kinds of hawks, there are many kinds of owls. There is the Eurasian eagle owl that can be 2.5 feet long and have a wingspan of over 5 feet in length. The great grey owl is nearly as big, with a wingspan about 4.5 feet long. All owls are recognizable for their rounded heads, huge eyes, and ability to rotate their heads up to 270 degrees, which is not far off from a full circle. They vary in color from brown to gray to tawny, and some can even change their appearance when they sense a threat. This can include facial features and feathering positions so that they can make themselves look more intimidating. And with those strong, sharp talons, many in the animal kingdom were already intimidated enough. So, which unlucky animals are the ones that are intimidated by these birds of prey? And where are these unfortunate souls? Where do they live? We've got bad news for you birds and rodents out there. If these birds of prey already intimidated you, if they already made you fear for your life, then there aren't a ton of places to hide. Hawks are not only found in a variety of habitats from open areas to heavily wooded regions, but they're also found on every single continent on the planet, with the exception of Antarctica. Hawks do love their high perches so that they can survey the land before them, so they're looking for trees. But some hawks will operate in a fairly open field with minimal trees, just as long as they can find one with branches. But they may also work at the edges of wooded areas or deep inside of them. They may be found close to sea level or even higher up in the mountains. We told you they're everywhere. Not to be outdone, owls can be found on every continent except for Antarctica. Some owls have certain habitat preferences, and others are extremely adaptable. As a whole, you can find owls in many places, from deserts to prairies, from forests to grasslands, in urban areas, and even in the Arctic tundra. You almost can't get any different than deserts and Arctic tundra, and the owl can tough it in either harsh environment. And as if the owl couldn't get more diverse with their habitats, not only do they nest in trees, but they also make their homes in barns, in caves, and even in holes in the ground. What do they eat? The prey of hawks and owls are trembling with fear all over the world, in nearly every habitat imaginable. So, who is the prey? If you hadn't figured it out yet, both the hawk and the owl are carnivorous birds of prey. The hawk doesn't just eat a lot of meat, they eat only meat. You'll never see them snacking on plants or fruits. They're out there hunting for their dinner, and they do eat a variety of different animals. If food is scarce, they may go after bugs like grasshoppers and crickets, but they prefer their meals to be bigger. They'll catch and eat reptiles like snakes and lizards. Some will dip into the water to snatch a fish. They do love to grab a lot of different small mammals like rabbits, squirrels, mice, rats, and other rodents. And yes, even though the hawk is a bird, he preys on plenty of other kinds of birds. This could mean starlings, blackbirds, sparrows, finches, doves, and if he can find a big pigeon, that's a nice big meal. The owl has a similar diet, but adds some different items to the menu. Owls may go for the grasshoppers and crickets as well. They'll take snakes and lizards, fish, a variety of small birds, just like the hawk, a variety of small mammals too, squirrels, mice, rabbits, but you may also see them catching and eating voles, shrews, lemmings, skunks, spiders, scorpions, and in an unsettling twist, other owls. This was a bit unexpected. Owls are encouraged to nest near many farms that have rodent problems as they work as excellent rodent control. A family of barn owls could eat 3,000 rodents in one nesting season. Some scientists even estimate that one single owl could eat 2,000 rodents in a year. If you're not keen on doing the math, we'll do it for you. That would mean in the 365 days in a year, one owl eating 2,000 rodents in an entire year averages out to around 5.5 rodents a day. He's eating better than 3 square meals a day. Quite the appetite. Now that we know what the hawk and the owl like to eat, why don't we figure out just how they go about getting their food? How do they behave in the wild? Most times, hawks will live solitary lives. However, they raise their young until they are old enough to fly and hunt. They're also quite social during mating season, and there are times when they travel in flocks, particularly when they are migrating. But most times, you'll find a hawk alone, sometimes circling high above in the sky, or trying to shroud himself in secrecy on the branches of a tree, watching, surveying the land. Sometimes they'll do this in the middle of the day, but many times they perch themselves on their tree branches just before nightfall as the light is becoming limited. And once they find their prey of choice, they spring into action. Hawks flap their wings repeatedly to reach their high speeds. Sometimes that means 100 miles per hour. It could even mean exceeding 120 miles per hour. They move with deadly agility, chasing their prey, which is almost always slower than them. However, that's not to say their prey isn't agile and fast as well. They'll do everything they can to get away, but hawks are so good at this part, landing on top of their prey, sinking their talons into their flesh, and depending on the size and weight, they may take care of it right there, or they might lift it off and bring it to a more secure location to finish the job. Owls are often living solitary lives or living in pairs, but there are types of owls like burrowing owls that form loose colonies. Most owls tend to hunt at night, using their incredible eyesight and hearing to locate their prey. They use the cover of night to their advantage, and also their amazing ability of flying without making any sound at all. The surface of their flight feathers are covered with a velvety structure which absorbs the sound of the wings moving. Most prey of the owl never even know that it's coming, until it's too late. The owl's talons are so strong that it uses them to crush the skull or severely injure the body of its prey. Then comes the beak, curved and hooked, built to grip and tear at the animal in its talons. The top and lower bills of the beak work in a scissor motion to continually tear the tissue until the job is done. Ruthless. That's a word that can be used for both the hawk and the owl. So, which one is more ruthless? What if they fought? Hawks and owls, both found all over the globe, both eat a lot of the same food, both excellent hunters. But the hawk tends to do his work in the daytime and the owl at night. But if these two overlapped in habitat and time, if they grew agitated with the other stealing many of its meals, if tensions grew high, we could see a battle break out. These birds of prey are both fearless and powerful for their sizes. Their sizes are comparable to one another. However, in many cases, the biggest owls do have a slight size advantage over the biggest hawks. If the two were to come to blows, the owl would be like a great prize fighter, using his weight to deliver pain. There's a lot of strength behind those talons that in many cases are even larger and stronger. In the case of a great horned owl, his talons are far stronger than that of hawks relative to his size. They're built specifically for crushing the skulls and bodies of animals, and so they'd really hurt the hawk when they made contact with the body. That hooked beak of the owl would slice and dice as he held the hawk in place. Then again, could he hold the hawk in place as easily as he would a rodent? Not likely. This hawk is incredibly powerful himself and could wriggle away from the owl, if he was ever caught in the first place. Because hawks are always faster than owls, and not just by a little bit, by incredible amounts. Many hawks can fly at greater than 100 miles per hour, where the top speed of most owls is about 40 miles per hour. The owl doesn't usually deal with animals of this speed, so he'd have a harder time catching the hawk. The hawk's incredible agility would see him zigging and zagging to avoid the owl, soaring away from him high into the air, and then dive-bombing back down and smashing into the owl's body, sinking his own powerful talons into the body, ripping at the skin with his own powerful beak. A hawk can take down fairly large animals compared to his size, but not usually animals of this size. But his speed would be a great tool to use in this battle. Any initial blow coming from the hawk while he dove at speeds of over 100 miles per hour would do incredible damage. As you can see, both the hawk and owl have their advantages and disadvantages. There's a good chance that the battle would be decided from the very beginning. If the hawk were able to use his speed, gain separation, and barrel into the owl at over 100 miles per hour, he'd sway the decision heavily in his favor. But he'd have to see the owl, and hear the owl coming in the first place. The owl's stealth is superb, and he could silently attack and land on the hawk before he could react. From that point, his superior strength from body and talons would be crushing, and surely work in his favor. But if the two met at the same time, in a close space, it really could go either way. And though the inclination of many may be that a hawk is superior because they're one of the first that you think about when you envision a bird of prey, in most cases it would actually be the owl. A hawk may look the part, more so the sleek design, the blistering speeds in the air, but more often than not, the owl's strength wins. It's not a landslide, probably more like 60 to 70% of the time that the owl would win the fight. The hawk is deadly, built to destroy, built to kill, and he does just that. Don't underestimate him, ever. But the owl, please underestimate him even less. He is the terror of the night from on high.